Hello and welcome. This is the Daily Dharma. My name is Dina. Thank you for joining and lending your attention and energy to this moment and this movement. Today we've got the mugwort in the bowl, smudging our area. I've got a few channeled messages as well. I have laid out a few cards to start the energy of the moment. Today we're on the heels of the Gemini new moon, and the new moon in Gemini is a time to really look through the mirror of other, through the mirror of self, into our own mirrored reflections out into the world, and to take stock of how we are showing up and how we are interacting with both others and the environment and with self. How are we being our own integrated, full capacity, multidimensional being, or how are we wanting to move forward in some type of a way towards those endpoints? So a few of the channeled messages here to get us started out. The elementals are speaking through a few times this week already, and the first ideal here that I want to express is that we can often, as those of us tuning in here are already connected with Earth and cosmos, most likely, we can understand that the Earth is nurturing to us. It's grounding, it's centering. We go into nature and can really restore our energetic sense. But it's absolutely an exchange of energy. So as the natural world is restoring us and lending its energy to us, we are also giving back, just like that symbiotic relationship between the trees and humans breathing each other in. That's the same way that the energy is working. As we breathe in their oxygen, we are exhaling the carbon dioxide that they are breathing in, and then they're exhaling that oxygen to us. And so in the same way, as we are being nourished on the energetic level, gaining what we absolutely need, then we are also nourishing the natural environment as well as the energy of spirit, the animating power and collective potentialities. So we're adding value in that way to the collective spirit around us. And then we are able to, in that moment, really sink into very deep, cathartic, transmutative states of being, astral travel through this reverent awareness of both our environment and the highest potential between all things as they are. I mean, when we're in our highest vibe, but we can also see those lower potentials because we're not blind. We've been born into this for a reason, and there has been multiple activating circumstances and insights in each of our lives lending itself to where we are here in this perfect moment. So we have, as they say, the eyes to see the beauty and the miracles around us and the potentials and the opportunities. We have the ears to hear the layers beyond the layers, the nonverbals, the essence and energies behind people's anger being a mask for a deep sadness that perhaps is unacknowledged or underrepresented. Hands that are here willing and able to create, arms ready to hold space and embrace what is meaningful, and the voice to sing as well as to teach and to listen and to give feedback and reflection to others and the environment, as well as feet to move and to dance symbolically or realistically. So with these gifts from an early age, I would suspect, based on the cards on the table, we do have at the center here, we have the orphan card showing up, which spoke to me in some deeper ways. It was as if we were born into circumstances on purpose, not only for the obvious things to catalyze our process and to activate our sense of what we don't prefer and what we would rather prefer, and call into ourselves, and what does and doesn't work, and how we felt about that, and how we choose to show up in the world. But also that this sense of being outcast or orphaned or alienated from social situations, belonging situations, or from family of origin has been some semblance of spiritual protection. It has been the exchange of protective influences in order to create the necessary space around our innocence, our childlike spark and wonder, in order for that to develop untainted as much as possible, but still catalyzing in that correct recipe and levels. Then there was this need to create a space around us that could allow us to incubate, to gestate, and to co create self with higher self. And so this is bringing in a few different things. The timeline thing I'm going to talk about in just a moment, but first the elementals. So from these early ages, we all have these cosmic influxes and anchoring earthly influencers that are melding into our sense of free will and sense of destined expression. Let's just leave that there. And so if you look at the cosmic influences, you can often see these elemental energies of earth, fire, water, air, ether, and spirit working through us in very powerful and intense ways. And this can definitely trigger, for lack of a better word, or influence others to give us feedback that challenges our sense of comfort in being and showing up who and how we are in that innocence. Others may say that old souls can appear at the same time very youthful and childlike, and maintain a sense of youthfulness into their older years, but at the same time, perhaps situationally, but when we look into their eyes or when they speak, they bring profound wisdom forward in the most spontaneous and childlike manners. Like the little child who's like, well, why don't we all just kiss and make up and blah, blah, blah. Well, wouldn't it be so simple if that were the case? It's very wise, but it's not necessarily easily plugged into our experiences. So we can be shut down by other people's doubtful hearts and skepticism and their jaded natures. And we can become jaded in that process, or we can really choose to lean in to those otherworldly or even very earthly elemental essences within our own alchemical makeup. And here's what was coming through. So recently, I did reveal on the channel, I'm not sure how many of you had heard it, but I have a grand fire trine, and because of the planetary influences connected to that, it can really, in a grand trine, anything can get going really fast. But depending on what elements are being activated and the planet, then it can come across quite intensely for other individuals or challenging them. So someone expressed to me recently that my fire to them feels volatile. Well, fire can be very volatile without a proper container and without a proper direction and such. So the fire can definitely be warming. It can cook our food. It can warm the hearth. It can warm others and help spark people to new insights and awarenesses. It can put a boot in the butt of individuals who need to get up and get going. So instead of seeing this fiery energy as volatility, then why don't we call that vibrancy? It is someone who is sparked at any type of like adding the mugwort here and then sparking this up. The mugwort can actually, it can be quite a good burner, and it creates a lot of smoke and a lot of cleansing energies. At the same time, the vibrancy that comes off of it is sometimes missed with others. I think that's a tangent I didn't quite intend. So it's an intense channeling of energy, I guess is what I want to say. The spark or any additive to that fire can be the conduit that then is the medium that's being burned, right? So instead of seeing that as being scalding, it can be very warming and influential and motivating. So earth energy can be seen as being very inflexible, very stubborn or stoic or unmoving, very slow and cautious energy. But at the same time, that's a very reflective and considerate energy. It's very authentic and careful, centered in one's own truth in the earth. It's somebody who's not going to move very easily. Air element can be accused of being flighty or disconnected or not present, but this is because it's the multidimensionality of thought forms, the active mind states that are considering and immersed in multiple brain waves all at one moment. And so we may be half listening here, but then sparked to tons of other ideas and potentials and possibilities based on what one is saying. We have questions. Do you have answers? It's that curiosity. They're inspired, mentally inspired. It's the magical brain, the magical thinker, and the creative. And so where we have the volatility and vibrancy of fire transmuting our awareness into something either cathartic or something like that, then we have the earth element being somebody who can very much ground and become very secure, very stabilizing influence to us. With the flightiness of the air, this is also the astral visionary. Now, water, these people we can see as people that are moved to tears quickly or are easily offended or very emotional. I mean, not everybody has to be this way, but the very highly emotionally driven individuals are those who are really working on deepening connection, deepening belonging, deep empathy, understanding how to not only hold space, but how to really work through the emotions in the collective deeply within themselves. They're holding space very profoundly in that manner. And they are representative of a very flowing capacity to be all of these things contained in one open, honest vessel, the container for the waters of the psychic world. And they process things that others cannot get deep enough into the waters or are not feeling comfortable enough to touch those deeper waters. They're fearful, perhaps. These individuals are really cleansing the psychic collective waters and adding a very restorative, cleansed, and cleared. The tears wash away, and they're cleansing and processing emotions from many different dimensions of awareness beyond others' perception. So then, yep, we've covered the gifts. So with this Gemini new moon yesterday in particular, Gemini representing the duality, the twins, the good and the bad, the light and the dark, the yin and the yang, and that we all have this element of the oppositional flux within us. The fire can scald and burn. The earth can be unyielding and drought. The air can blow around our best laid plans and stir everything up and whatnot, the emotional waters can flood and overwhelm and drown in these emotions. So this is the point here where we're being asked to really understand the depth and I want to say the gravity and the power behind the intensity that we've been, let's say, accused of being less than, and really optimizing these into self-containment, being able to really draw in the fullness of self, converging all of this into self, and then bringing it forth in very being able to be that container for our intense gifts and work with slow release. The more that we understand who and how we are, and that it is a gift, there's no longer any need to convince others or gain validation for that. On the back is dwell on what you love. Convince yourself, not others. Before I get into the other cards, I do want to continue here. So this timeline shift, we do have a little bit of astrology coming through in the week ahead. We've got Venus and Mercury, or excuse me, the Sun and Mercury will be coming together, coming up in a few days. That will be, for those that are interested in real time, Friday the 14th of June, 2024. So this is an alignment of impulse, individuated ideals, and personality, ego, all of these things. The convergence of self is coming through with this ability to align with our plans. Before that happens, both Sun and Mercury are going to have their own squares with Saturn. Saturn being the highly grounded, highly mature time master. So the time master is key here to the timelines. It's allowing both that individuated powerhouse of energetic exchange with the environment and with the cosmic forces and waveforms coming through, but also our ability to harness the ideals and the potentials and opportunities from those to start cooking up, strategizing any type of plans and recommitting and re-ideating what does and does not serve, and what needs to be cleared away or transmuted, and what needs to be brought online in a more full and fulfilling way. Then we have Mars squaring with Pluto retrograde. Surpassing resistance within self came up. And I want to spend a lot of time with that. I feel like we understand that certain things that don't serve, there's attachment energy coming through, because Pluto will be retreating back into Capricorn for its final stay, coming up in I think a little more than a month. And then this is where we're really getting deeper into our motivating principles and transmuting as much as we are able through, with this card, diving deeply into self. This doesn't necessarily have to come through hermit mode, but it's absolutely coming through the astral, whether that is through your dreams, meditations, visions, even daydreams, and your speculation on what is to come, what has been. Those narratives that I will sometimes speak of, narrative might be the wrong word, but have you ever been one to like leaving a situation, what I should have said, blah, 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 or, imagining what is to come in a situation like, oh, is the boss going to be in a bad mood? If they do this, how can I handle this thing that I haven't been able to quite master the exchange to feel like I've been met and fulfilled in this situation, that I haven't done something quite enough or the right way. We're putting things in right order. This resistance is sometimes our attachment to being the nice guy, or, well, I don't want my boss to think badly about me, or speaking to our lovers about the love languages that are happening between us, speaking to friends about when we come together, we can often vent to our friends, but let's also inspire with our friends too, right? Um, so all of these things are coming up to help us to move away from the attachment to whatever has been, or these ways of accidentally ideating the negative timeline by, oh, well, if they're going to be aggressive with me, then here's how I can bolster up and stand up firm to them. It's like we can also at the same time say, maybe today the boss is going to be in a good mood, or maybe before the boss has an opportunity to be in a bad mood, maybe we can walk in with a smile and just say, hey, good to see you. Did you have a nice morning or last night, or anything fun coming up for the weekend? We can engage them as a person and take them out of the office content. There's all these strategies and unique gifts that you have that you are aware of. And whether you're somebody who can transmute one's awareness from the stress of the job to come, like, what are you going to do for this weekend? Are you going to do something fun for yourself this weekend if you know somebody's overworked? Or this grounded, secure energy can really answer somebody who's highly sensitive. Workplace dynamics are easy, but let's say a friend or relative or child who's highly sensitive and emotionally driven, we can be that grounded and secure person that's like, hey, what would you like to do this weekend? What have you been wanting to do, type of a thing. I'm going to run out of time here. So there's this other thing I want to get to. One more astrological thing we want to bring in. Venus and Mercury are both going to be semi-sextile to Uranus, this shifting mindset, utilizing the abundance mindset, our preferences, and this calls in observer bias. This is what I'm getting to with the way that we accidentally create our timelines by the way that we observe things that are in astral. So again, taking time in nature to reset and bring in the miracles, exchanging energy with trees, really allowing yourself to tap into those miracles helps you to reset your energies to that baseline of beauty, contentment, love, light, etc., rather than observing the potential negatives or what you don't prefer. So if any of you are interested or aware of quantum experience, the double slit experiment is the observer bias I'm talking about, where they say that things are mostly air, and when you, let's say, shoot a whole bunch of balls towards this screen with two slits, then the molecules are said to be everywhere. But as we take snapshots, we see that they are only in this one spot. You'll have to go through and do this research on your own time if you don't understand those things. I'm not doing a great job of explaining it, but with the double slits, it's like those activated astral potentialities are everywhere. It's everything everywhere all at once. This crazy movie. It's got some weird spots in it, but it talks about the multiverse and how this individual is really awakening to their potential to call forth and to like download instantaneously this skill set or this timeline, or to pop from here to there to everywhere. And the multiplicity of how one person is showing up. And so with this, if we engage with that childlike spark instead of the jaded, fearful heart, then we are taking the positives and negatives, the motives and intentions, and the observers in the situations are creating. All of this multiplicity, the multiversal, multi-dimensions and realms are then observed into this convergence, into a singularity of outcome. There's this little bitty fly trying to get me, this little fruit fly. So then this singularity, this convergence, becomes the timeline that becomes the evident physical reality going forward. And that can still fluctuate. So with this, if we're always seeing the best in individuals, we can really be tuning into a potential versus the self-actualized reality of these quote others. And so we could see the best, or we could also, in our own jaded egoic self, our fearful heart, can also see the worst in people. So we're not the only chooser in that reality. So we have to really awaken and become aware to how these things influence our own self through diving through the portal of the higher self, the timelines of self. Look at all these moons around here. It's like in the perimeter, in the Merkaba field, I want to say, more than just the auric field that we are creating here by our emotional resonance and what we're tapping into, which timeline we're experimenting and sampling from, like a buffet, going around and saying, yes, I have been this, I aim to be this. I can also see how sometimes I can also evidence this lower self, this higher self. Multiplicity is our birthright and our magical potential. And so this is really talking about how our bloom cycle is really getting rooted in the earthly realms as well as anchored in the etheric realms, and being able to be that powerful manifesting co-creator with everything that is and can be, and manifesting something profound from that space. We're resetting timelines and co-creating timelines. And that reminds me, yesterday I misspoke. The triplicity of creator, preserver, destroyer. I incorrectly spoke on the gods that were related in the Hindu traditions. We've got Brahma is the creator, and then Vishnu is the sustainer, and then the destroyer is Shiva. But Ganesh can also be in there too, as some of that energy, I would suspect. So we've also got convince yourself, not others. We've got the first one up here came out as forgive. And this seems like forgiving yourself and others for the multiplicity, which creates expectations. But remember that we're all clued into this multiplicity, and we're all multidimensional, and everyone has the potential for good, bad, and ugly. But here we've got, they chose you. And I was sensing this as spirit choosing you, and that you are designed for this. And convincing yourselves is like awakening to everything that you are without comparison. No two flowers are the same, yet all are beautiful in their own way. So maybe you think that others are doing it better, or have more luck, or had it easier than you or harder than you, but you've been chosen for a specific path, for a specific outcome. We'll get back to that if we need, but I think that's clear enough. The mirror is popping out. This to me talks about the broken glass. I've been seeing this imagery of how the opera singer can break the crystal glass with the highest frequency notes that they can emit, just shattering crystal glass. And it's like that same emanation from the core of self coming up through this this voice, this invocation, I want to say, the creation of our magic, breaking through the mirror of the Castor Pollux dilemma of duality with this Gemini full moon, those expectations for other, where then we're like, well, if I need wood for my fire and water for my food, I'm going to go chop my own wood and carry my own water because I'm capable. On some semblance, it's symbolic. So the mirror is like the breakthrough moment where we recognize that we have perhaps felt fragmented or broken in certain situations, but this has been on purpose. The orphan coming here next, that nest, it's like we have been perhaps neglected, outcast, or orphaned physically or literally here on purpose so that we would remain multidimensionally untethered to something physical. It is helping us work through attachment in a way that others didn't have the gift of. And then we have the nectar. This is how we've been able to look through the black and white. It's like at first, see how that flower is out of reach in the hand, is in that grief-stricken state. And then we have the hand is now reaching out for that flower. It's like what was out of reach, we are seeing our potential ability to really reach for and embody very clearly and powerfully. And then at the end of the row here, we've got under the deck the sword, cutting through this lightning bolt from the third eye of Shiva. This to me is like cutting through indifference, cutting through the projections of others, the expectations of others and our own, to forgive self and other for not taking it easy on us, because this is on purpose so that we could be more powerful and stepping into our purpose and our full potentiality. The last line we have out here, we've got winter's dream, gestation period. I don't know if this was a frozen out mother figure, a parental figure, or if it's the self in any capacity, or past, future, present timeline where there's been a frozen, stagnant period, a need to pause everything. It's like, have you ever seen where in the movies where everything is paused around them, but this individual is still aware and looking around? It's like you're able to freeze frame your reality and take in things, the layers of realities, and really pull yourself through that portal of self here, through those root issues. It's the perfect storm through that center. That's that center here, diving into the portal, the center, that perfect storm. The courage to step into your life is to step through the illusion that others have created. And here we have that Andean cross, speaking about how past and present and future timelines are all converging. They're all concurrent timelines. There is no timeline that is outside of potential. Benefactor, you are creating something beautiful, and the energies around you, the universe chose you and is so delighted. The ancestors are so delighted. They're feeding you with more and more energy. And the benefactor came out with this card, the Galactic Mushroom. We're out of time. I apologize. We've got ancestral wisdom in the Hunter, as well as Woodwives adaptability with stars in the sky, limitless possibilities here, talking about all the things we've just talked about. Everyone in spirit is pushing you and helping you to step up and step forth and bring forth and call forth all of this energy for your highest good. So romantic